I'm Morgan Peckma, Editor-in-Chief of City and State. Today on Last Look, we bring you excerpts from our MWBE New Agenda Conference yesterday, featuring 3 of the mayoral candidates, Republican Joe Lhota, Independence Party nominee Adolfo Carrion, and Independent candidate Jack Hidary, talking about what they would do to help MWBEs if they are elected. Bill de Blasio declined to attend.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me. Before I start, I'll give a few short comments, and I'd love to open it up for questions and answers. One of the things that I've always thought about when it comes to MWBEs, specifically here in the city of New York, is I actually believe that talent is spread equally among all the different communities throughout the city of New York. And we're the most diverse city in the world. But what we have, and what we don't have, though, is that we don't have opportunity equal throughout all of the communities in the city of New York. And that's at the core of why we have MWBED programs. They keep adding on and on. But it's very, very important that we be able to provide opportunity to all in the city of New York. Look, too many deals are decided, too much involvement is decided, especially with the capital programs of the city and the state and of all the various agencies. They're decided by who you know, not by, what you can do. And that's really unfortunate. To get business in the city, you need to have a track record. And one of the things that you don't have if you don't have business is that you don't have a track record. It's a vicious circle, and it's what I call an opportunity gap. And it's an opportunity gap that can be closed very, very easily. And I don't know if Michael Garner, who's somewhere in the room today, who's the Chief Diversity Officer of the MTA, very much involved in the MTA programs while I was there, and a phenomenal person. He's put together, with the direction of the Board of Directors of the MTA, an elaborate MWDBE program. But more importantly, Michael created a mentoring program. And that mentoring program is so critical for businesses, minority businesses, women's businesses, all of the groups that we need to make sure that we give proper attention to. If past is prologue, you have to see what I did at the MTA to encourage and to continue to encourage minority, women, disabled, distressed businesses, get business with the capital program of the city of New York. It was very, very important. It was my mandate. It was also a mandate of the Board of Directors that when we look to spend the MTA's dollars, just as I will as mayor look to spend the city dollars, to make sure that it's widely spread around. But the mentoring program is by far, excuse me, that happens. The mentoring program is very, very important because what we were able to do is to take smaller firms and be able to marry them to larger firms. And one of the things that I have always found, no matter where I was in my career in life, what I learned in the classroom was nowhere near as important as the on-the-job training. So by taking a small company and giving them the experience of learning from a larger company, this is exactly how you were able to get out of the vicious cycle and to be able to eliminate the opportunity gap and just create opportunity. It's done over and over again at the MTA, and I will import that over to the city of New York. One of the things that I've said in this campaign over and over again, my opponent loves to talk about income inequality and how he would like to fix it. I agree there's income inequality, but I believe the only way to fix income inequality is to provide jobs, to continue to expand the job base, to diversify our economy, and do everything we can to make the unemployed employed, for those who are underemployed, employed even more. And believe me, that is the purpose of the MWBE program, to allow people in all communities, and specifically in communities that haven't been getting the business and haven't been getting the opportunities, to get the opportunity. Because I have always believed that the most important social program ever invented was a job, and allowing folks to be able to have that pride and make sure that it continues. So in my experience at the MTA, my experience in government, my experience also in the private sector, is that you have to go out of your way. You've got to make the system work. You just don't create an MWBE program and say that's it. It evolves over time. It changes over time. I mean, I can remember years ago when I was in the private sector and competing, and we needed to partner up with minority firms when I was an investment banker, and encouraging various different people to start firms for the opportunity. It's been extremely important to make sure that you partner with people to create the opportunities for all. And then finally, as we talk about the opportunities that we need to have for all, I actually believe it's important to also go talk to communities, have seminars like this, go to all the boroughs and make sure that everybody understands that the city of New York spends X billion dollars a year, not just on the capital programs, which is what I focused on at the MTA, but also the ongoing operating budget of the city of New York. It's a $70 billion budget. Contracting that goes out outside of the city of New York and away from employees is about 40% of that number. It's a huge number in billions of dollars. It not only deals with legal firms, law firms that we need to deal with, and accounting firms that we need to deal with, and consultants that we need to deal with. There are numerous different ways in which we can involve the minority and women and distressed businesses and disabled businesses to be able to work. Let me leave you with one final note, and I think it's very important. And you might agree with it, you might not, but for me it's a personal charge that I want to do. A lot of men and women have come home from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I actually think that we should also be able to help them get on their feet. Most of those who've been in the service, who've come back to New York, are minorities. I think we need to give a special category for them as well. You know, my generation, when folks came back from Vietnam, they weren't welcomed with open arms for lots of social reasons. But the men and women who've gone to Iraq and Afghanistan to serve this country, who did so on a voluntary basis, we need to be able to include them in minority and women business programs and WBE programs as well. I want to endeavor to do that because we owe it to these women and these men who fought for us to have our freedom, to be able to participate and have an opportunity in the economy as well. And with that, I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I'll be more than happy to answer any and all questions.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Delighted to be with you. I'm going to be exceedingly brief because I understand that you have a packed program, and I am running late already. I'll give you a little bit of my UN Security Council traffic adventure. First of all, you should never plan an event during a UN Security Council week. Advice to all city players here. But we had to jump off on 22nd Street and get on a city bike so I could pull up to Washington Square. Yes, sir. And since it's about advancing the city, here it is, city bike right here. I think Jacques de Graaf is a great voice for this cause of MWBE participation in one of the largest and more robust economies on the globe. And I want to thank him for advancing that cause and being tireless and apologetic about it. Thank you, Jacques, you're terrific. To the panel, thanks for the opportunity to interrupt, and to all of you for allowing me an opportunity to just say a few words. I think you know my brand of public service and my brand of politics. I was borough president of the Bronx, and I was a member of the city council, and when I ran for office, I was unapologetic about one message: the best social program is a job. We need to grow the economy. I've always been a pro-growth guy, an uncomfortable Democrat, unwilling to go all the way to the other side and be a Republican, even though we played footsies with a fusion ticket idea that was advanced by my friends on the other side. But I'm running as an independent for mayor of New York City because I believe that this city must continue to be a city rich with opportunity for folks who come from all over the world and all over the country, because it is a city of commerce. Because it is a city of commerce, that's why people keep coming here. The old port city, where it was birthed in New York Bay, to where we are today across 5 boroughs, it is still and ought to be and must be a city of commerce, of business, of growth, of opportunity, of wealth creation. And that's what we ought to be about. That should drive our education agenda and our education system. It should drive all of our public policy. It should drive our housing agenda. We should make sure that the city is affordable, that it has a generous offering of housing for all New Yorkers. We know that we live in this housing state of housing emergency at present. a 2% vacancy rate. It won't allow the middle class to grow. It won't allow small business people to grow into the middle class, into the upper middle class, and remain here and be part of a strong tax base. We also know that a large share of the small business community and medium-sized business community is minority and women-owned. You'll hear a lot of stats today. I'm sure you're going to hear from a lot of experts. There's a couple of things that I know. I know that we identified that the system was broken and couldn't work and wouldn't work for minority enterprises, and so we passed a local law 129 in 2005. We started on a path toward fixing that. We then put it on steroids with local law 911, still trying to ensure that the city offered opportunity to minority and women-owned enterprises. And we've made some advances, raising the cap and doing a number of other rule changes and programs. But let me suggest something to you. We still are underperforming. We still are not providing the kind of opportunity, open government, transparency, ease of process, ease of entry, ease for capital, user-friendly bureaucracy that allows for minority businesses to participate in what is one of the largest economies on the globe. We have a $70 billion budget. We have a $1.3 trillion economic footprint that is global in nature. And still, I was looking at the stats. It's insidious. And look, I have a business called Metro Futures. So if this politics thing doesn't work out, I'm still going to be in business. Metro Futures LLC, check it out. But my mission in that business is to advance minority business growth, to grow the business footprint with government, with the private sector here in New York City. I represent one very exciting firm that I'm excited about representing. It's called the CSA Group. It's the largest Hispanic-owned architecture and engineering firm in the United States. It's got 500 professionals. It's got a headquarters in San Juan. It's got offices in Miami, Orlando, 40 people in New York, other cities, Philly, DC, Cincinnati. We're opening up in Chicago, just trying to grow the footprint of this business. And I have to tell you, as a business person, trying to knock down the doors of bureaucracies and procurement officers and the culture that exists, almost a culture of gotcha and resistance against minority and women-owned businesses. And where is it most clear? Because, we could all talk and complain and say, this just somehow is not working. But it's in the numbers, my friends. It's in the numbers. From January 2013 to September 2013, New York City spent, I don't know if anybody said this before today or earlier today, $44.5 billion. And that's in money that we put out spending for goods and services that we need as a city. $44.5 billion. The minority and women-owned enterprises' share of that $44.5 billion was less than 4%. And a good lion's share went of that little thin slice. 96% went to majority firms. Nearly 4% went to minority and women-owned businesses. So we could pass laws. We could pass, and we've done it. We've put it on steroids, that local law 129. But until we change the culture, until the city leader, and this is why I'm running for mayor as an independent, because of the gridlock that we've experienced, whether it's promoting small business, whether it's keeping taxes low, whether it's pushing back on regulation and predatory enforcement, that if you run a small business in the city, you are the city's ATM. If you're in the middle class, you are the city's ATM. That has to stop. And that is politically unpopular because people are always trying to get reelected, so it's very difficult for people to truth speak. My friends, if we're going to continue on this trajectory, and I think we've turned a corner and we've started to do things right, you got to give Mike credit, Mike Bloomberg, for all the complaining. The laws that were passed with the advocacy of Jacques de Graaf and so many others, Liz Velas and the group that they've put around this issue, and Sandra and her work, and so many others that I know of, and we've worked side by side. We work side by side on the Yankee Stadium redevelopment and building a whole new neighborhood. We can do this, but the city leader has to be obligated to a culture change. And so what we need to do is ensure that those procurement officers, we got to get to the procurement officers. Because I will tell you this, you know, you get past the commissioner, you get past the nice talk of the politician, you get the introduction, you get in the room, they say nice things, what a beautiful firm you have, look, your balance sheets are beautiful, you know, you got cash on hand, this is great. You are bankable. You might even be bondable. But then you hit the procurement culture that says, we have our usual suspects that we use for work. How many people here have a prime contract with the city of New York? A prime. You're a prime contractor on a construction project or something else. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, out of a group of how many, 100 people? Something is broken. I want to be your mayor. Thank you very much.
Good morning, how are you? Excellent. My name's Jack Hidary. I'm running for mayor of the city of New York. Great to be here with you today. Today's topic is of critical importance. The question of how do we create entrepreneurial opportunities for everyone in New York City? And specifically, how do we make sure those opportunities are translated into contracts and opportunities with the city itself? So let me just start with the first point. As you may know, just some background on myself, I'm the only entrepreneur who's running for mayor of the city of New York. I grew up in Brooklyn, born in Brownsville, grew up in Coney Island, and grew up in a family of small businesses. Small business was intrinsic to who we were. We came here as immigrants, like many of the families represented here today in New York City, and grew up from nothing. My dad has a small business, my mom has a small business, my cousins have a small business. The price of admission to dinner at my table in the kitchen was having a small business. I got the picture right away. I started my first business when I was 10 years old. And what became clear to me is that while I was really fortunate to have the opportunity to start a small business and to be in a family of small businesses, many people in New York City don't have that opportunity. And as I went around New York City, as I grew my own businesses, I then realized that as I had mentorship, as I had help starting my businesses, I wanted to turn around and mentor others. And so we asked the following question. We said, this concept of microfinance, microenterprise, the concept of helping people start businesses who have no credit history, bad credit history, who go to banks and get turned away by banks. About a third of our city, about a third of the people in our city go to banks and get turned away for even small loans of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, even small loans. How can we overcome this challenge? Well, about 10, 15 years ago, a concept of microfinance started really growing up around the world. It goes back even before that, but really started taking hold in India, in Bangladesh, in Bolivia, in Ecuador, lots of different countries. And I knew about that and heard about that and traveled to those countries and worked on microfinance. And a number of us got together and said, can we make that work right here in New York City? And sure enough, we put together a team of people, we put together mentors, we put together a program, and we put together a grant and loan fund. And within 4 or 5 years, I'm happy to tell you that we started 2,500 new small businesses in New York City, all with people with very, very low income, with bad credit history or no credit history. 2,500 companies. Thank you. And how do we do this? We do this by going into the communities, and saying to local partners who knew the community members, tell us, what are some of the needs of the community? I'll give you an example, daycare. Daycare is a huge need in our city. And so we found out that the city actually can certify and give you a license to start a daycare center in your own home, in an apartment, for up to 6 kids. And so we put together a training program. We trained more than 200 women to start daycare centers in their own homes. They would take care of 1 or 2 kids themselves that they had of their own, and 4 or 5 other moms would be able to drop off their kids in the building, and then they can go to work. And so it was a 2-for-1. We started more than 200 of these daycare centers, and typically they're profitable within 6 months. We started this with just $5,000 or $10,000 of a small loan, but the key, my friends, was mentorship. Mentorship is the key to moving the needle in terms of having these businesses succeed. When you look at small business in America, 60% of small businesses fail in the first year across the United States of America. But in our program, only 20% failed in the first year. And what was that huge difference? That huge difference was not just a loan, not just some of the business planning that happened right up front, but it was the mentorship. It was the ability to go in and work with the entrepreneurs. And again, let me tell you that 85% of the entrepreneurs we helped were women. 100% were on some government assistance of some kind. And so we were very successful in doing this. And as mayor, I will tell you right now that I will take this kind of program and take it around the city, opening up opportunities, unleashing the potential of New York City, unleashing the potential of the entrepreneurs around the city, in daycare centers, in food-related businesses. We started more than 500 food service businesses, businesses that would cater an affair like this, cater a baby shower, cater local business events. These could be very successful businesses within a matter of 6 to 9 months. And again, they need small amounts of money, small amounts of capital. But again, of course, they need mentorship and someone to believe in that entrepreneur. Someone, when the bank says no, we say yes. When a credit union says no, we say yes. That's what we need. And as mayor, my vision is to embed these kinds of services in our community centers. Right now, there are many parts of New York City that don't have a robust community center. As mayor, I will build out, in a public-private partnership, more than 30 new community centers. Not just for recreation, yes, recreation for families, after-school programs, health education, but also business training, mentorship, and microfinance enterprise funds, loan funds, to start new small businesses. That's absolutely critical. Now let me talk about contracting. Today, unfortunately, in the city, we've made some progress in some areas, but not in this area. Only about 3.5% of all city contracts go to minority and women-owned businesses. That is unacceptable. That is not acceptable in the greatest city in the world. We need to at least double that right away to 7, 8%. We must take that as a minimum, and then we must grow from there. But how can we do that? We have to do that not just by wishing it to happen, but by making it happen. We need to go into the communities, work with the entrepreneurs, help them understand what city and open contracts there are. We must get to 10, 20%, and then beyond. We have to do this because these are opportunities for people in New York City to open up, to become entrepreneurial. I believe that anyone who wants to in New York City should be able to start their own company, lead their own company. I myself have built several companies again and again and again, and I've now mentored many, many hundreds of others directly. And I can tell you, it is the greatest feeling when you see someone who is just barely at subsistence level, barely making ends meet, have their own business, open up their own food service businesses, catering business, daycare business, clothing business, retail business. Open that up and say, I now have the ability to take care of myself and my family and give back to my community. And that's what's so amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, the number of microfinance entrepreneurs who started their own company, who came from nothing, and then turn around and give of their own time to help others start their companies, that is one of the greatest things to see in our city. We are a city of opportunity. We're a city of realizing the American dream, but too many people in our city have not been able to realize that dream. Through these kinds of tools, we can make that happen. Thank you very much.